Hello everyone. Thanks for joining me on this webinar. So I'm Nivas here. So I'm one of the product analysts at Vembu. So I'm the one who is going to host this webinar for today. I'm seeing some attendees are joining here. Let's wait. Let's wait for some time. Okay. Let's give them a couple of minutes, and we will start this webinar in 2 or 3 minutes from now. Yeah. Thanks for joining and stay tuned. So we'll catch. Hey, hello everyone. Thanks for staying connected and thanks for joining me with this webinar. So to all the new attendees who joined now, so I introduce myself once again. So I am Nivas. So I'm working as a product analyst at Vembu. I'm the one who is going to host this webinar. I'm also having one of my colleagues, Mr. Pranav. He's a co-organizer for this webinar, so he's also with us. Yeah. So I don't want to waste much more time on introduction, so let's get started. So before getting into this, I just want to give the ground rules for this session. So this webinar is being recorded, and all the new attendees and all the current attendees are muted on entry, and you're in mute. However, if you have any questions, so we have a Q&A box here. You just type in a question. So either Pranav or other members of my team will try to answer your question. If not, they will provide you answer by an email by tomorrow. And as this webinar is being recorded, right? So we'll be posting this webinar in our website maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow. So this is the ground rule for this session. Yeah. And yeah, let's start with introducing Vembu. So Vembu is a company founded in the year 2002. And we are headquartered in India. So we have a 10 plus years of experience in developing the backup solution for various IT environments, whether it is a traditional or modern IT environment. So we have a backup solution for everything. Yeah, we set our footprints over 100 plus countries across the globe, and we are growing. Currently, we have a customer base of around 60 plus thousand customers using Vembu to protect their business critical data. And these are few of our customers. You can see here, NASA, Fujitsu, Kawasaki, a lot more enterprise and customers are using Vembu. So they are relying on Vembu to protect their critical data. And so let's come to today's webinar topic. So the best practices and considerations to overcome the VMware and Hyper-V backup challenges. So today, this is a topic. So let's see what's the agenda for this webinar. So this is the agenda for the webinar. So initially we discussed about the challenges in protecting the VMware Hyper-V virtual machines in your environment. Then we'll see what are the best practices to protect a virtual machine against a data loss or disaster, which is followed by I introduced Vembu, how Vembu can help in protecting your VMware Hyper-V virtual machines, and I also explained how Vembu simplifies the data protection and reduces the total cost. Okay. Then I will try to show you a live demo of how Vembu works. Yeah, at the end we have a Q&A, so you can ask your questions and we try to answer your questions. If possible, we will discuss your questions here in the session if the time permits, or else we will try to answer your questions whenever you type in the question box. If not, as I said earlier, so we will drop a mail to you by today or later. Yeah. So let's jump into the first slide. The major challenges in protecting your VMware and Hyper-V VMs against a data loss. So I picked some of the some 10 major challenges most of the IT admins face in protecting the Hyper-V or VMware VMs. So I curated here. So let's see everything in detail. Yeah, these are the first 5. So the first one is a resource constraint. So backing up a virtual machine is different from backing up a physical machine. So in physical machine, so it's a legacy traditional backup, right? You install an agent inside the machine, then you configure the backup. So it will take a snapshot and send a snapshot to the backup server. It's a single way traffic. So the data will be sent over the network and it reaches the backup server. Okay, but in virtual machine, it is different. In a single physical host, you are running multiple virtual machines on it. And each virtual machines host multiple applications. So there is a resource constraint. So when you plan for a backup, if you didn't plan well, so all the virtual machines triggers the backup at the same time, and send all the data will be transferred from the host machine to the backup server through a single network. So this will choke the network. Yeah, so the resource constraint. So the bottlenecks are inevitably experienced here. So that's the main thing in the resource constraint. So you have to plan the resources, and this is one of the challenges when you face when you try to back up your virtual machine. Then it's a scaling environment. Yeah, so the virtual machines. So if you're going for a virtualized environment, so your environment is scaling. So that's the meaning. You prefer to opt for a virtualized environment. Okay, the number of virtual machines are increasing day by day. So now you start a company with a 10 virtual machine, and just in case in 30 or 20 or 30 days, the number of virtual machines are growing. Maybe in a year, you end up with 100 virtual machines. So I think it is growing at a massive rate, and you have to alter your plans day by day to protect all the scaling virtual machines. Then the VM portability. Again, this is one of the critical thing that you have to keep in mind. So the virtual machines can be dynamic. They move around the infrastructure, especially when the features such as vMotions are used. And backing up the VM based on the physical location on the network can result in failed backups and manual effort to locate and resolve problems. Yeah, there are a lot of things in there. Yeah, so this is, you have to consider VM portability is like, yeah, the virtual machines move around to protect it from a fail, or it will do the failover for load balancing. Yeah, it will move around. So you need to keep in mind that how to protect a virtual machine when it moves from one host to another. Yeah, that's one thing. And application consistency. So these applications introduce another layer of complexity with a virtual machine. It's another layer of thing in virtualization stack. Okay. It introduces another layer of complexity. So data is often active in the storage layer, the hypervisor, the operating system, and the application, each of which maintains a buffer, data buffer to improve the performance. Unless these layers are synchronized during the backup process, it is easy for uncommitted data not to be backed up correctly or properly, so resulting in inconsistent backup state. Unfortunately, these issues will be only became apparent at the time of restore. That is clearly too late. And the next one is the backup frequency. So you're running multiple virtual machines, and each virtual machine might have different level of importance. So some virtual machines are more critical, and some virtual machines might not be that critical. So you have to be very clear in defining the backup frequency for these virtual machines. And yeah, it's one of the difficult things. So you have to properly plan how frequently you want to back up these virtual machines, the frequency between the incremental backups. And the next is tracking your virtual machine. Yes, again, this is one of the important things that I want to point here. So you are creating a lot of virtual machines, right? A lot of virtual machines. And these virtual machines are transient in nature. So today you create a virtual machine. So it is not, the virtual machines are, the lifetime of the virtual machines are not long as compared to physical machines. So if you create if you deploy a physical machine, so you use a physical machine for some years. But virtual machine, the lifetime of the virtual machines are not like that. So let us take this development environment as an example. You create a virtual machine today, but yeah, so you use that machine for 1 or 2 days and you just destroy it. Yeah, so it's easy to create a new operating system and migrate the data from an older VM to the new VM. So yeah, you'll be creating a lot of virtual machine every day, and you'll be destroying a lot of virtual machines. So you have to track this virtual machine, which virtual machine is critical, and you have to plan a backup for it. And then testing restores. So you backed up a virtual machine, you backed up one of critical machine, and so what if that virtual machine backup will not help you at the time of the restore? What if the backup data is corrupted or something? So you should have a plan that allow you to test the virtual machine, the backup of the VM data frequently to make sure that the backup will help you at the time of disaster. Next, restoring backup. So there are multiple ways to restore the backup. So you should clearly define how you want to restore this particular data at the time of a data or disaster. Okay, so there is some of the critical files gone missing. At that time, it is not a good idea to restore the entire machine. So instead, you have to choose for an option, the backup software that allow you to gradually restore the particular files from the backup. Then monitoring the status. Yeah, so let us take this an environment that is having 200 and 300 plus virtual machine, hundreds of virtual machines, and you configure a backup. So you have to monitor the status of the backup. So what if some of the virtual machine backups are missed and you didn't monitor it? So the backup system that you have set up doesn't alert you. So you end up in a situation, in case of a disaster, you will not be able to restore that critical machine. So monitoring the status, whether every the machine that you have configured for the backups are being correctly backed up at a right interval. So you have to keep a track of everything. Again, keeping a track, so the backup frequency of the virtual machines differs, and keeping a track of it, it's one of the challenges that you usually face. Then the license cost. So yeah, so if you offer a solution, so you have to pay for it, right? So to protect your data. So it differs based on the number of virtual machines or based on the number of physical hosts you're backing up. So you have to consider the cost of choosing a solution that backups your critical machines. So these are the 10 major challenges that I felt is major. So that's why I put in here. And yeah, so I collected these after a lot of research and after discussing with a lot of experts in this industry. So these are the 10 major challenges that most of the IT admins are facing in the environment. Yeah, apart from this, there are a lot, but I feel this is the most critical ones. And yeah, so what are the best practices? So we see the changes, the challenges that most IT admins face today, and what are the best practices to protect these virtual machines from a data loss or disaster. So let's see. The first is creating a right backup plan. A good backup plan reduces the business downtime. Okay, how to create a correct backup plan? First, you have to list out all the critical machine, okay, or the critical applications or the critical virtual machines. You have to list out, and you have to write a priority against each and every virtual machines or application. You have to list it first, and you have to prioritize it. Then you have to define the recovery point objective and recovery time objective of these virtual machines. Some virtual machines, for some data you can afford a downtime of 1 or 2 days, and for some critical data you don't want to afford that. You cannot afford any downtime day. So you have to define the recovery point objective and the recovery time objective for each and every critical machines or the applications that you're using to run your business. Then you have to determine the best recovery method. As I said earlier, so you just want to restore a particular file. At that time, you cannot go and restore the entire machine to restore the particular file. So you have to define the scenarios, and you have to determine the best recovery method for each and every scenario. So these are the 3 things that you have to follow when creating a right backup solution for your business. Then yeah, so the backups are good. That will help you to reduce your business downtime. And coming to DR, so a good DR plan helps you bringing the business operation sooner from a disaster. Okay, there is a major disaster, and yeah, if you have a good DR plan, so you can come back to the business in a very minimal time. And yeah, so there are I have collected some 6 important points that you have to keep in mind when creating a good DR plan. First, you have to identify the disaster. How the causes, the root cause of the disaster. First, whether it can be natural disaster like a hurricane or floods, or some man-made disaster like a wildfires, wars, or large-scale cyber attacks. Like nowadays, you can see a lot of cyber attacks are happening everywhere across the globe. So you have to define the disaster, the source of the disaster. Second, you have to define the assets. So which assets need to be protected and which assets need to be restored after the disaster. So you have to define it and you have to give a priority for it. Yeah, the next one is setting the recovery point objective and the recovery time objective for the assets that you have defined. Okay, so how much of data you can afford to lose and how long your business can be down after the disaster. So you have to uh, set the RPU and RTO for the assets that you have defined, and then you have to organize a crisis management team. So you have to um, assign some certain people to manage and implement the DR plan for your business, and you have to make sure that the team that you have recruited is equipped with all the necessary resources. Okay, then you have to test the plan. It's one of the critical thing. Testing a plan is one of the critical thing, and it will help you to find the loopholes, and you can fix the loopholes. Okay, for the best thing is you can simulate the disaster. So you can just create a team. You can just simulate the disaster, and you can mock the disaster, and you can document the results at each and every step. Then yeah, you have to come to a conclusion. You have to assess the time taken to get your business back after this disaster. What if the disaster happened? You should do some mocks, and then you have to monitor everything. Okay, and so based on the test results, so you have to improve the DR plans. So in order to reduce the the downtime to minimum. Okay, so these are the things that you need to keep in mind when creating a DR plan for your business. So these are the best practices, and let's come to some of the industry best practices. What experts are suggesting here to protect your business critical data. So the first one is a 3-2-1 backup strategy. Yes, everyone might have heard this. That means 3 copies of backup data in 2 different location and 1 in offsite. 2 different storage mediums and 1 at offsite. So this is the 3-2-1 backup strategy. Yes, even if any one of the even if the on-premise backup data goes down, yes, you have a copy at offsite, right? So this offsite copy, backup copy, will help you to restore the business operations. And yeah, ensure the accessibility DR site. So yeah, so you created an offsite copy, and this offsite copy is safe on a different location. What if you lose access to this offsite copy? So you have to make sure that you have an accessibility to the offsite to restore the backup data from the offsite at the time of a disaster. Then yeah, you should keep in mind, you should select a solution that should be scalable. So yeah, you might be a small business today, but yeah, eventually your business grow. The number of virtual machines in the business also grow. Okay, the solution that you choose to protect your business critical should scale as your environment scale. Okay, then you have to keep the plan updated. So you have to test the plan, and if there is any fault in the plan, you have to fix it. Again, you have to retest it. Every day you find a way to improve the DR and the backup plans. Then you should train the personals. You should give a proper training to the personnel, so to act at the time of the disaster. So you should not create so the people should not create any panic or something. So they should be calm, and they have to implement what they practice in the drills, the mock drills and mock DR scenarios. Right? So you have to implement what they have learned, and then you have to keep note of the do's and don'ts, and you have to properly implement, and you have to train the DR personals properly. So these are the industry best practices. And coming to how you can choose the right backup solution for your business. So you have to consider these 4 points in mind. First one, the recovery point objective and the recovery time objective of the solution should be less than 15 minutes. Second, the selected backup solution should allow you to restore the backup data almost instantly. Then the solution should allow you to restore the data granularly, like so restoring a particular files from the backup or particular application item from the backup. The solution should allow it, and yeah, the solution should verify the backup data periodically and make sure that ensures that the data that you have backed up will help you at the time of a disaster or data loss.